All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first official PGA Tour winner on the channel, Mr. Scott Stallings. Welcome to the channel, buddy. I appreciate you coming on today.
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We have an interesting connection, and we're going to get into it later, but we kind of bridged first in the fitness world, and then I got into golf kind of after we connected. It was like COVID-ish for me, and then I just became obsessed. And so then I feel like our connection kind of was able to furrow a little bit more. You linked up with HWPO, which we're going to talk about. I started a golf channel, and now it's just the meeting of the minds. Finally, I'm so excited to finally chat with you, man. It's long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. The golf world is not a very big, especially once you get to sort of the upper tiers, and the fitness world is about the exact same. And kind of funny how things work like that. Yeah, you kind of get yourself into certain situations, you realize just truly how small of a world and kind of how everything's interconnected, and you're a good dude and kind of handle the right things the right way. It's, it's not shocking how things continue to work themselves out. So sorry, I got my alarm on my phone to remember that I need to call you.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. You're here, so it's good.
I'm here.
Yeah, you're here, man. And you were just pretty busy this morning. You were just telling me off camera, but I'd love to go back into it. It's kind of a funny story. You were playing a Pro-Am. You're at Torrey Pines, by the way, which is like, is that like one of the, would you put that in your like top 5 courses that you get to play every year?
Yeah, I mean, I was a past champion here. Got beat in a playoff, and place that's very near and dear, and obviously look forward to coming back every year. But yeah, the Pro-Am circuit, the social content creating, and all the different things that sort of take place, and the world of professional golf is changing. Kind of the evolution of live, and kind of how that's made the tour change, and just professional golf in general, and kind of everything's sort of moving, and you just find yourself in certain situations like, this is not the same Pro-Am situation I found myself in, and it's and none of it's bad. It's just different, and things are changing, and different things like that. So just sort of my caddy and I are looking at each other like, man, what in the world is going on out here? And just more or less, just people just making themselves available for all different versions of the internet, whether it's social media or YouTube or whatever, and having a chance to talk to people like yourself.
It's so funny, man. Yeah, so for reference for you guys listening, we hopped on and he's like, oh yeah, I was at a Pro-Am. He's like, I was playing with some YouTube guys this morning, and the YouTube guys were Grant Horvat and Micah Morris, which is hilarious because I don't even think you're probably like you said, they were good guys, whatever. They have just been the talk of like YouTube golf recently because they had like the big departure from Good, which is that big group. They just announced yesterday that they're signing on to Team TaylorMade. And so then you were playing with them at a Pro-Am today. I was like, what is happening? It's like all the worlds colliding at once. But like, what you kind of touched on it, but like, is it weird for you like how much these like YouTube golfers are getting this attention, and like how does that feel kind of being someone who's been in the pro golf world for so long?
I think it's different from the perspective of like having a bunch of friends of mine that are kind of in that, they love playing, they want to have fun with it, it's not super serious. I think people see professional golf and kind of understand that it is what it is, and it's whatever, like whether you strive for it or my caddy and I were talking when we were driving back to the house this afternoon, like the people see themselves in wherever it is. They laugh, they hit bad shots, say this and that, and I think they for whatever reason, because I'm very capable of hitting just as bad a shots as they are, I just maybe do it just a little bit less. So I think just people find that common ground, and I got some buddies of mine in Knoxville that started basically a golf league based off of nothing more than just guys getting together, having a good time, giving back to a little bit of charity, and just making golf fun. Golf is very difficult. It's expensive. It takes forever to play, and just finding out different ways to enjoy the game and different things like that. And I think that's where people can kind of find that through whether it's YouTube or, any type of social media, and just kind of understanding that there's a lot of different ways to enjoy the game. And these guys do a really good job of bringing it out there.
Absolutely. How has it felt for you? Like, because you've been through some time with the kind of the evolution of like this social media side of the golf in general, not just pro golf, but like, have you felt pressure from like, whether it be like brands or managers or people in the space to be like, hey man, like you got to start putting out clips on this platform or collabing with these people? Like, how has your life as a professional been impacted by this kind of stuff, if at all?
I mean, it's definitely been, whether it's a relationship with Noble or any of the other partners that I have, and I just kind of making yourself available and knowing that it makes you value your time way more, but also with respect to like when I'm playing, like that's the priority. And if we get to the spot of when that's not the priority, like we need to figure some things out. And there's a time and a place for everything, and making sure you plan it out, and got a really good group of guys around me to kind of help make sure I'm being cognizant of both those things, as far as like inside the ropes, outside the ropes, and in the gym and on the grass, kind of balancing all those things together, because they're all good things, and just kind of more or less just being aware of it and kind of having a little forethought and some planning. And I've got a calendar that works well into September already, and you kind of work like that. But my goal for 2023 was deal with problems that I create, not problems that I inherit. So like I'm highly capable of creating my own sets of problems, but I want to be the one that has to deal with them. I don't want to have to be the person to be like, how in the world I get myself in this situation? And I want to know like what happened and kind of all the inner workings of the details. And so that was kind of the goal for the year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. I can see how it would totally cloud it too. And like the more you do online, probably the more incentives from that online world start to creep in. And I feel like maybe younger guys this might affect more, but like the glitz and the glam of like the social side of things and the building a following and the whatever that might come with that, especially for younger guys coming up on tour, I feel like that's maybe changed their kind of mindsets a little bit towards how they're approaching this kind of media stuff. Whereas before it was like something you had to do and you didn't really get anything from it. But like now it's like if you build a big following, like say you do a bunch of trick shots and you build a big Instagram following, like that could actually monetize for you. And if you were coming up in the tour, like as a younger player, it could be like a pretty big incentive. Do you see that at all, or is that not really something that's clicked yet for young guys?
I definitely think it has. I think it just goes to the understanding of like, kind of how the version of golf has changed. You used to see guys like head to toe, certain one brand, whether it's equipment company or whatever. And you were referencing the guys signing with TaylorMade. I think we were part of that launch today. Maybe not. There was a lot of things happening out there. They were super nice dudes, awesome to play with. Micah can smash it. But just like all of this stuff and just kind of seeing like, man, this is not how like tour golf is. Like this is like TV golf. Like, and they are very understanding of that, like the difference, kind of between the two. But sort of, I mean, it could definitely be a distraction, but it can definitely be another opportunity to create and kind of differentiate yourself. I guess I more or less did that in the world of fitness, and that was never my intent. But I mean, my intent was to, take care of myself and be the husband and father and, golfer that I felt like I could be. And, those kind of fell in that line, and never wanted to, put myself out there in that spot. But more and more that I started sharing my story as far as the different things that I learned and how I kind of neglected a lot of areas of my life as far as health and wellness and different things like that. Just people started resonating with it, and the story kind of started getting out there and had a chance. And next thing you know, I had a really interesting conversation with a guy that's a starter at number one at the Players in Ponte Vedra. He came and saw me, and he said, in 1 year, you're going to see a different version of me. He said, I listened to an interview you did and this and that. And that was like the first time it clicked as far as like, man, maybe I could be like an intermediary for someone and try to help them not go down the same road that I did. And, understand that you only get one body, you get one life, and, you need to be a good steward of it as best you possibly can. And, truly see what your life is capable of and not neglect it and take it for granted. And sure enough, like almost a year to the day, go back to the Players the next year, and he'd lost like 65 pounds. And it was like all those different things. And I mean, that's kind of sort of more or less happened for me as far as just trying to make it a little bit more of a focus to kind of be able to speak to people and this and that. And not as much about me, but just about the kind of the decisions and, kind of how I got myself into that spot and how I've, used a lot of people to kind of help me get out. And I was super fortunate to have a lot of people to reach out to and ask the right questions, and more or less just like, man, try to learn as much as I possibly can and realize that I don't have it all figured out.
That's so cool, man. I love that. Yeah, I want to get into all that, the fitness side of things, fittest man on tour, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, the HWPO stuff. But let's jump back a little bit, because I think a lot of my audience, they're big on the YouTube side of things. They watch pro golf, but they're definitely big like YouTube golf fans, so they might not know your backstory a little bit more. So I'd love you to just kind of get into your start in sports in general. Like, what was your athletic background growing up, and how did you find golf, and what kind of took you down that path?
I played all other sports definitely before the age of like specialization or anything like that. Seasonal, I played basically everything but football. And 1997, everyone remembers Tiger came on, wins the Masters, and it was it. I was on a competitive baseball team. We played a bunch, did all this and that, and that was kind of over. And you know, I was playing golf. I was very average, to say the least, based off of, you know, where I was with other sports in my life. And, you know, that's kind of how I got going. And kind of a late bloomer. Then kind of developed, had an opportunity to go. I played 4 years at Tennessee Tech. Kind of the last place on earth I ever thought I was going to be, and probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Some great friends, great learning experience, a lot of humility, and just a chance to kind of grow and, you know, kind of figure out the player I thought I could be, both on and off the course, and kind of going from there. And played mini tours for a little over a year, and then played what's now the Corn Ferries Nationwide Tour for a year, and now I just started my 13th year on the tour.
That's crazy, man. That's such a cool story. How was that mentally to like commit to that? Because you said like you kind of had this moment where you saw Tiger win in '97, and like one thing I'm interested to chat with you about is like that Tiger effect, because I think the Tiger effect on the game of golf, turning these guys who would go, like these country club guys who would just drink and smoke and not really focus on their health, into what it is now with like you and JT and like all these guys who like are like Scheffler, who are so fitness forward in their training. Talk to me about like, what was it about Tiger, other than just the fact he was an amazing golfer? Was it that click for you of like, hey, I'm an athlete, I can play this sport as an athlete? Or like, what did that spark look like?
No, it was just more or less you kind of deal with like the old view of golf, as far as, you know, kind of stiff, boring, this and that, and then this young, like, vibrant kid comes out and just absolutely just I mean, wears the field out at the Masters, and you're like, oh, like, you can smile doing this, you can like and have fun. And yeah, that was kind of it. Never from the athletic side did I ever think of it at that age. It was just more or less just like, I mean, like at that moment, the game changed, and it will never be the same. And, you know, there's been like little similar things through my career where like things change, you know, whether golf ball, equipment, fitness, you know, life, whatever. There's all these little things where, all right, the game's never going to be the same, never going to be the same, but it's always kind of pushing forward and, you know, kind of adapting to the times. And that was one of those things, no matter where you were in the world of golf, you kind of look back and it's like, the game that we knew, we'll never see that game again.
That's so cool. You talked about, you know, kind of your foray into the journey and through mini tours and Corn Ferry, or what was the Corn Ferry, to the PGA. I think, again, a lot of people on YouTube and in the content side of golf see really good golfers. They see people who can shoot, you know, 5 under at their home course on camera and do that a couple times every once in a while and whatever. And to the onlooker who's not really versed in it, that looks like a, you know, professional golfer almost, right? Because it's like you compare the scores, you're like, oh, they shoot about that on tour, like da-da-da. I would love for you to like try to put into words what the difference is between, like, you know, you kind of touched on it earlier with the TV golf versus pro golf. Like, I know there's a huge difference, but it's like hard to verbalize if you're not there. So I would love if you could try to like put it into words what the real difference in playing is.
I had that conversation today.
Did you really? Oh, great. Perfect question.
Yeah. Micah, I asked Micah, he hit a shot into a green, and like, he's got a great golf swing, hits it really far. And I said, did you ever try to play? And he goes, man, I was kind of a late bloomer. You know, I'm pretty athletic and just kind of, I found to it. He said, but I know how to swing. I know how to do this. He said, but my golf IQ is so low. Like, I don't know. And especially tournaments and adapting to course conditions and strategy and all this and that. So I was just kind of talking him through a certain scenario. He goes, something I have never considered once ever in my life. And so just kind of like talking him through it. And and this and that. And I just think that's the kind of thing. It's like, we hit bad shots on tour. We just do it less, and our bad shots aren't quite as bad. But our good days are like, our bad days are better, and our good days aren't quite, or our bad days aren't quite as bad. I guess that would be the easiest way to say it. And the course conditions that we play week in, week out on tour compared to like I have some buddies I play with at home, and say I've been struggling or whatever. I'll come home and play a nice round, and they're like, "Man, why have you been struggling?" I was like, "Man, this is literally nothing. The course is literally nothing compared to what I just got done playing for the last 4 or 5 weeks." And so there's a little bit of that. And I mean, all the places that we play on tours to the nth degree as far as difficulty and rough and green speed and firmness and all, and pressure and all the other stuff that kind of goes into it. When you're just kind of at home with your buddies, I talk about it like maybe the difference between like a tour player and like a good amateur or collegiate, kind of whatever, the guys you're referencing, is sort of like when the lights come on, like what happens. And I'm and those guys are probably the first to admit too, like, man, my golf today was not very impressive. But I was sort of like, but they could kind of see more or less when we started talking about the game and practicing and, just different ways to think around your golf course, is like, all right, man, I guess when the lights come on, it's just everything's kind of keyed in, and just kind of knowing the difference between like when to kind of put, fall on that, and when, because you can't necessarily like be like this all the time, and kind of understanding how to kind of, drive into that when it's necessary, and also be able to pull back and understand the game for what it is.
That's so cool. I love that. So let's go into the kind of incorporation of fitness, because you talked about that. Obviously now you're partnered with HWPO, you're a coach, you're partnered with Noble, you're a coach on HWPO and kind of running your own golf program. But before all that happened, you started this kind of fitness journey on your own. What was it that really like set those alarm bells off for you to be like, this is something that's going to improve my game if I focus on this side of things?
Well, I think that's a little bit of a misconception, because I never made any of the changes in any of my life, both mentally, physical, whatever, for golf whatsoever. I mean, it was solely, as it literally had zero. Golf was the furthest thing from my mind. It was my life. It was my family, my wife, all the people around me. And truly just trying to, but the extenuating benefit was if I took care of all that, eventually, hopefully it would kind of transfer over into the golf course. And I always kind of tell everyone that like 2015, 16, 17 time was sort of that, like trying to figure it out phase as far as, is this sustainable? Can I do this? I mean, because there was years of, bad habits, traveling, lack of planning, all these different things that sort of went into, putting me in such a detriment that I was. And I mean, it was no one's fault but my own. And I think you started to get into it and, kind of figure it out. And then eventually, like I said, I had a bunch of people come around me and kind of help me evaluate all that stuff and figure out the fastest way to kind of make some, efficient changes that would be lasting. And then I, slowly but surely started figuring it out. And the biggest, thing I tell everyone, I said, you make one change and, figure out a way to kind of make it a part of your life, and then continually, instead of just, I'm going to eat better, sleep better, train every day, never have a bad day. And then next thing you know, it's like the first thing, it's like, it's over. Like, don't even start that. And I think that's, thankfully I had some people kind of speak into my life early, and as far as when I was starting to make the changes, and help me understand that it needed to be lasting, not just kind of flash in the pan. So, I mean, that was kind of the goal. And, here we are now. I haven't got it all figured out, but I'm way closer than I was.
That's interesting, man. That's cool. That's cool to hear, because I wasn't aware that it was kind of outside of the golf world. But like, what then did you feel change in your golf game, if anything, as you increased your focus on all of those like health factors? Like, did you what part of it was it? The recovery? Was it the injury prevention? Just overall like power in the swing? Like what kind of things do you really feel improved?
Pretty much all. I was able to do more with less. I was able to, the sustainability, playing over long periods of time. And, like last year I played 31 events. I mean, that's 31 weeks on the road. That's not being at home. That's being in a different routine, different town, different gym, different course, all the different things that kind of go into it, and just the ability to kind of manage that over a long season was just, my body was so much more adept to be able to handle kind of the, you know, extra things that go along with just being able to travel to that fullest extent. And it was a really cool thing to kind of get a chance to experience, but just like everyone, you kind of have to find that like happy medium. Like, you know, there was the golf side, and then it was like kind of flowing into the you know, health and fitness, and you know, where that kind of became a focus, and then it was kind of sliding back into where, you know, where we kind of find where we are now, which is, you know, that happy medium between golf and kind of balancing those out. And I was the strong proponent of, just because I could, I did. And especially like when you start to, you know, get your legs underneath you a little bit and start to understand some training. And I mean, there were some strong overtraining circumstances that we were dealing with. And, you know, just was like, I felt good. I'd never been able to kind of experience in that. And I remember one tournament, I had a bad Saturday, and I just took off running, no plan, nothing. And I got lost. And this was at St. Simon, so thankfully it was the last term of the year, and I ended up running half marathon on Saturday after the round. But I mean, that was also because I'm an idiot and I got lost. And it was basically like I had felt like there was a turnaround. There wasn't a turnaround. It was literally just, I got to the end and I was having to go back. But like before, if you'd have told me 5 years ago, like, hey, you're gonna, you know, accidentally run way too further than you ever intended to go, and you're going to wake up the next day and play the final round of a tournament and shoot bogey free, you know, 300 par on the seaside, and you're like, okay, I wouldn't recommend that for everybody, but like, if you'd have told me that 5 years before, I'd be like, you're insane. Like, they're going to find me on the side of the road somewhere, and, you know, in like a heap. But I just think that's understanding of like, you know, just kind of, you know, when you do things and, you know, sort of figure it out, like it's amazing what you're capable of. And I'd never really experienced anything like that. So man, I tried it all, you know, sometimes to my own detriment, sometimes, you know, this and that. So, you know, kind of build some guardrails in there, and, you know, kind of build some planning as far as how you train and when you go about doing the different things you need to do. And, you know, it's been a cool journey, and it's cool to be able to have an opportunity to, you know, share with people, and just kind of the different ways I've kind of figured out that work best for me, both when I'm at home, on the road, and, you know, playing and competing against the best players in the world.
That's awesome, man. I know personally, like, working out at home on top of work can be challenging sometimes, but when you get me on the road and I'm traveling for work, it's always the easiest excuse to just be like, oh, I'm not going to train because I'm not at home. I'll take this week off, whatever. But I can see, and if you're on the road 31 weeks a year, that is a perpetual cycle that can cause a lot of issues. What are your protocols that you put into place to train well on tour and well on the road? Because I'm sure at home, compared to when you're on the road, it feels natural and easy. But like, you're right, like different gym, different city, different, you know, it's not all your equipment. They might not have the right equipment. Like, how do you mentally check in and like discipline yourself to actually like get in? Like, do you have any protocols or practices, like get off the plane to the gym every time or something like that?
Yeah, just, it's not a matter of if and when, just a matter of what time of day, and kind of building it in. And training is different. Like, there's like working out, and then there's training, and understanding that it all incorporates differently. Try to walk as much as I can when I travel. Like, for instance, I flew out to San Diego this past weekend, coming early, and I had a long layover. Instead of like just sitting in a chair, just hanging out, whatever, just went, and literally the furthest gates apart in Atlanta Hartsfield Airport is almost 1.5 miles. So I literally set my watch, and I grabbed my front bag, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna make use of my time, get some steps there, move around, and just try to figure out a different thing. But I mean, that's kind of the mentality I have. It's not a matter if and when, just a matter of what time of day, and, you know, trying to build that in. And I talk a lot about reverse engineering, kind of building some plans in, and kind of understanding how your day is going to flow, and understanding when you can give that appropriate time. And, you know, whether that's early, whether it's late, you know, kind of in the middle. Like, as soon as I'm done with you, you know, go to the gym, and It's kind of my afternoon. We have kind of a late morning round tomorrow. So kind of a, Wednesday's a cardio flush kind of day, sweat it out a little bit and, eat some dinner and take it easy and be ready to play tomorrow. So, I mean, over time, kind of the training cycles develop. We don't really have enough off time to go through like a pure like hypertrophy stage or any kind of like these periodization cycles like you would traditionally have in, strength training and different things like that. So you sort of adapt and figure out. I did a thing with the Noble and they're like, all right, so what do we do for this? It's like, I'm essentially trying to control and slow loss as much as I possibly can. It's like, because if I get to a spot, and it's different depending on your baseline and where you start. Like if the guy's never ran and goes and runs a mile and he runs a 15-minute mile, let's just use that for example. And then he goes and runs again. There's a strong chance he's going to run faster the second time. There's a chance he could run slower, but if he's never run and he does it again, he's going to figure it out and learn. But let's just say you have just a baseline of training and understanding, and you have a certain of strength and this and that. If you play a full season on tour and you just use a deadlift and you add to your deadlift and it was at a significant weight or whatever, there's a decent chance that you potentially train more in your deadlift than probably with respect to what you've done in golf. So when I say I want to slow my loss in my strength as much as I possibly can, we just don't have the time to build those gains or whatever people like to refer to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Are you happy you're going to have a bit more of an off season now to actually be able to maybe periodize a bit more? Because you guys are done in the fall for the most part now. You don't have to worry about playing fall events after the Tour Championships. It's basically that, and then again the Century, right? This next coming year.
That's sort of a one way to look at it. I mean, it depends on where you are in the FedEx Cup. I'm fortunate. I'm exempt for a couple of years, which is great. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see where the fall stands, and it'll be an opportunity to kind of make some strides, make some changes, and kind of go into it. And COVID changed everything for a lot of different people. But in the world of golf, that was the first time in my career I'd ever had that much time off where no one else was playing. So I mean, I went 7 weeks when my clubs were still in the travel bag, and I mean, we trained and did stuff that we never thought we were going to have a chance to do in the midst of a season. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but it's sort of a sliding scale of just imagine like a week schedule, and it's like heavier, longer, slower into shorter, faster, lighter as the week goes on. And, with respect to tee times and travel and all the different things that kind of go about into it, and try to hit all the benchmarks as far as what you're trying to do. You want to hinge, you want to pull, you want to do all the movements. It's just a matter of just kind of respecting how they kind of fit into the week.
Interesting. Have you ever just made yourself so crippled? Like, for example, yesterday, the workout that you wrote, Mr. Scott Stallings, I couldn't sit down this morning. My ass was so sore from all of those Bulgarian split squats. I've never done so many Bulgarian split squats in my life. And if I had to swing a golf club today, I don't know, it would look pretty funny. I don't think it would be a fluid motion. Have you ever done that to yourself where you've just broken yourself and then had to go play an actual round on tour or something like that?
I'd say probably in the beginning, when I was first starting to learn how to train and figure out how that fit into golf. I've definitely probably had some moments where it was all right, probably shouldn't have done that. And thankfully, I haven't had that too many. I've definitely had it at home, where I've got, say I got 2 weeks off. I came back from Maui and I had 2 weeks off. And those first couple of days were like that, some big squat days or something like that. And you go out there and swing. But I sort of, and that's one thing that we were referencing. We do these circle calls with HWPO Golf on Mondays where we get to answer questions and kind of cycle through. I try to swing in the workout as much as we don't prescribe swings or anything like that within the workouts. But if I have a big pull day or an upper day where I'm trying to, there's a bunch of pressing or, whatever there is, or push-ups or pull-ups or whatever, I try to swing almost immediately, after one of those days, just to try to understand where the club is and, some kind of where I've moved with rotation with respect to my swing kind of throughout. But at the beginning, there was definitely a lot of those how in the world am I going to do this right now? But thankfully, those are few and far between now these days.
I feel like most guys, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most of the guys on tour now have adopted really this like professional athlete kind of lifestyle with training and nutrition and body work and all that kind of stuff. But have you ever had someone like come up and try to like not convince you, but like, have the argument that like, if I lift, I'm going to get sore and I won't be able to swing as well. So that's why I don't work out. Like, are there any of those people that you kind of run into at the top level of golf nowadays or no?
Not as much from a player perspective. Definitely, there's a lot of experts out there, or experts, and whether it's the social world or whatever that basically critiques. There's always going to be critics, no matter what you do, and kind of figuring out, what's applicable and what's not, and what's noise, and, what's something that needs to be considered, and, kind of the balance between all those things. But I think at the end of the day, like, you feel like you have a good plan. If someone that plays golf at the highest level says they don't do any level of training, they're lying, because you cannot play to this volume that we play at the intensity and the nth degree of margin, as far as, the difference between winning and 10th and missing a cut and all the different things that kind of go along with that, and not do something to take care of yourself. You're just fighting an uphill battle, like literally against the best players in the world that are all doing the things they can to take care of themselves. So I've had some interesting conversations as far as like, we could go full nerd, like eccentric, concentric, like, loaded, unloaded, banded, weighted, body weight, all the different sort of, variations of ways to train. And I kind of say, like, just the way that you swing a golf club, there's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of body types, and there's a lot of things that I don't do. And, but there's a lot of things I do. And sort of it's a trial and error, as I said before, and, figuring out ways to kind of showcase there's a lot of different ways to do it, and a lot, kind of figuring out what works best for you. And I enjoy training through the week. It sort of gets me out of my own head, as far as kind of gets me away from the grass a little bit, and allows me to sort of feel more athletic than I do. I don't necessarily feel super athletic when I'm playing. It just seems like I'm just doing something I love to do. I don't really think about the athletic side of it. And then I get to go, sweat and move around a little bit. And it's like, all right, this is a little bit more geared towards my personality, and sort of from that perspective.
That's so cool. Let's dive into how HWPO came to be for you then, because that's obviously, you have this knowledge and you've developed this knowledge kind of, in your own way. What was the bridge? How did the conversation start with HWPO, Matt and O'Keefe, about getting into this? And what does it really look like for you? Because you're now a coach on HWPO. How the heck are you doing that while being on the PGA Tour, playing 31 events a year? I'd love to hear those two things.
So I met Matt O'Keefe through the wonderful world of the internet. No, I don't know if there's a single person on planet Earth that loves golf more than him. He is freaking obsessed. We posted a video of a buddy of ours that carried my bag around a couple days ago at Torrey, and O'Keefe was in freaking Japan skiing. Auto text, like, who is this guy? Like, because normally when he comes out on the road, he likes to, carry with John and I, and, kind of be out there inside the ropes and different things like that. But he met, and he was actually the first guy that introduced me to the guys at Noble, and, kind of kicked off that relationship. And, the last couple of years, getting to know him and kind of being around, that world in New England and different things like that. And we had a workout this year at Boston at the U.S. Open where Marcus, CEO of Noble, Danny, our sports marketing guy with Noble, O'Keefe, and myself, and basically we're at Marcus's gym. He's like, we want to go through like a golf workout. And I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna train, and you guys can call it golf or whatever, but I'm gonna show you kind of what I would do. And so I just took them through it, and they're like, all right, we literally work with in fitness and golf and training and all these different things at the highest level, and we've never done any of those things. And this is these guys saying this, and finally it kind of spurred the conversation of O'Keefe just asking me, he's like, why have you never put out a fitness program? And I said, man, first of all, I don't have the time. Just playing, practicing, and more or less just finding someone that I would just be able to kind of put my name on it, be able to be involved as much as I possibly can, help with the workouts, engage with the community as much as possible, and sort of just be able to kind of speak into that. But as far as just managing the overall day to day, it's like I just, if there's a call on Thursdays at 1:00, like I'm just not going to be there, and just kind of understanding that. So more or less, he's like, all right, and he didn't really say anything about it. And then the evolution started going from there as far as, all right, what do you think you would need? What would it look like, this and that? And, then this person, ginger glasses wearing unicorn is what I call him. He absolutely hates it, but he is. I mean, a person that can speak all the language. And it's our project manager, Justin Aarons out of Oregon. Played college golf, competed in the CrossFit Games, owns a CrossFit gym, avid golfer, worked with the Oregon Ducks, and it's just like, where did you find this guy? Because he's exactly what we need. And I remember when we had our first interest meeting at O'Keefe's house, and we were kind of laying out the game plan, and O'Keefe looked at me and he's like, I'm not really going to say this with pressure, but kind of like, I've scoured the earth and he might be our only shot. As far as to be able to do this. So I hope you like him. And him and I hit it off great. He's honestly, he does the leg work. He does a lot of the stuff on the day to day, and just constantly pouring into the community and trying to, kind of bring this program to the fullest extent of what we think it's capable, and ability to, kind of make a difference in, yours and mine, and, kind of everyone that comes in contact's golf game. And so it's been a really cool process. I've learned a lot. I have experienced the sorest I have ever been in training, filming those videos. There was 131 movements, and we filmed it in one day. And so, some of those movements are both arms and both legs. So you can do the math on 3 to 5 reps of all of those. That was a lot. I woke up the next day and I was looking at Justin and I was like, you're filming today. I am done. My shoulders were like, I couldn't lift them above that high. I remember we were going to film, and Eric, the guy that helps with the media side and all the content stuff, we were doing some renegade rows, and I had 40s, which is very manageable, especially for displaying and this and that. And he's like, man, you can't start like that. And I thought he was just making fun of me because I'm a golfer, and they all call me weak and all this and that. And he's like, well, Matt uses 20s. It's like, well, Matt can overhead squat over 400 pounds. If he's using 20s, I just use body weight. And so I go and get these 20s, and by the end of the day, man, these 20s felt like they weighed 200 pounds. So, but it was neat. It was kind of an opportunity to kind of showcase a little bit of a different way to train in the world of golf with respect to rotation and a little bit of intensity, and kind of how to breathe and work yourself through adverse situations in the gym, and, hopefully have some carryover into the golf course, and, sort of adapt the program as, we get feedback, and, try it out with different communities and in different events throughout, whether it's on tour or affiliated with HWPO, with Noble, or, all the different things that fitness and golf kind of bring together. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do a lot more in person and get a chance to kind of tell the story. And as far as, you can, make a lot of changes in the gym to kind of transfer over into the golf course and vice versa.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's really exciting because, for me, I've been following the program now for 2-3 weeks. I just tried it, did a trial, and then O'Keefe hit me up and was like, hey, man, yeah, you got to do this, you got to try this, whatever. So hooked me up, and I've been following it now for 2-3 weeks. And it's the first time since I started golf where I felt purposeful in my training again. Because after I kind of stopped doing CrossFit just to do CrossFit or trying to compete, and I got really into golf, it was there really isn't anything out there that in my opinion, blends what I like about CrossFit, which is the intensity and the sweat and the ability to feel like an athlete while training, but then also have something purpose built for the game that I love to play. And that really for me, I just want to, prevent injuries and increase my mobility and just do stuff that helps mimic that. It's been awesome, man. So kudos to you. It's really cool, and I think it's having an impact on a lot of people who want to, be able to train but also have that bleed over to golf. So I'm super enjoying it. It's been a really, really fun program to get in.
Yeah, I appreciate it. A lot of the feedback we get is man, you're like, all right, some of the workouts are short. Like we have like some high 20s days. And we have like maybe like there's like 1 or 2 days that like dip into the 40s, but you're really in that like 30-40 minute time slot. And they're like, all right, man, that's short. And then you get into some of the workouts, they were like those repeat 3 minutes, and you're like, 3 minutes is so long.
Yeah, dude, I've found like it's the days that look the most nonchalant that are the most like sneaky brutal. Like literally yesterday, it was like a repeat of like Bulgarian split squats, and I don't even remember what the other one was. But then there was like a short sprint AMRAP. It was a 10-minute AMRAP with a minute rest after the round. So I was like, 10-minute AMRAP with a minute rest built in. I'm like, that's nothing. So the work's going to be like no big deal. It was a 15 cal bike, 5 double dumbbell front squats, and then 10, it was supposed to be bent over rows. And like coming from a CrossFit background, you look at those 3 things, I'm like, that's not that crazy. But I started sprinting on the bike, like full damper, like standing as hard as I could, as fast as I could, squats. It was the hardest workout I've done in the last like 6 months. Like I was gasping for air on the ground. That minute rest disappeared. I did like 6 or 7 rounds of it in that 10 minutes. Like it was so deceptively hard. So I get what you're saying. It's like some of the stuff is like you're just kind of cruising, whatever, but then sometimes it's like it looks so nonchalant, but it's like death.
Yeah, we have some more coming your way in April.
Great.
Justin,
I'm super excited.
Justin is in the process of finishing up the program, but we've been testing some of the ones. Basically, like we run through. We were doing some circle calls the last couple of weeks. People were asking questions. It's like, man, do you guys do the workouts? Like, well, we've done pretty much all of them, or some iteration of all of them, but now we're kind of pressing on. So like I was looking at the one for today. Was that the 35-minute EMOM that's on there? Yeah. Like I remember like, we're like, all right, we're going to have just like a traditional EMOM, and more of just try to educate people on like how to program and the difference in far as intensity and how to scale and all the different things like that. But just the conversation as far as like, we'll kind of keep the baseline of HWPO golf and sort of have like it's very all scalable, and then sort of have like the next level up, which may be a little bit more geared towards, what I do at home and on the road. And Justin and I have sent some bangers back and forth, based off of some of the programming that we all have already in the program now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm excited to see what comes next for me. Should be PO, but what's up for you this year on tour? I hear you're actually going to the Masters now, so that's good news. I know that was kind of up in the air for a little bit when that invitation didn't quite make it to your house, but talk to me about what's coming up this year. Is there anything exciting that's a little bit different, or are you just grinding through another 31 events, or what's the plan look like for 2023?
A little bit different. Obviously, making the Tour Championship last year opened up a lot more of my schedule. Have a little bit more freedom, chance to plan. I'm going to take my family to Europe for Scottish British Open, or Open Championship. Sorry, I know we got some Europeans. They get really sensitive about that stuff. The Open Championship, but different things like that. Building some schedule, playing some tournaments. I haven't had a chance to play in a long time, and just really looking forward to, just like everything's changed with social and all the other stuff with golf. I mean, professional golf has changed and a lot in the last 12 months, and it's cool to kind of be out there and be a part of it, and kind of going to work with something new every single day coming at you. So exciting to be out there, and kind of a pretty instrumental time in the future of golf and the PGA Tour, and sort of golf as we know it. With kind of everything that's being changed with the digital world and the real world, if those are two different things. But it's very cool to be out there and be a part of it. And, I feel like I have the best job in the world and the best tour in the world. And I feel, fortunate enough to be out here and, play with the guys I get a chance to play with.
That's awesome, man. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. I appreciate you coming on today, brother. And I'll link all your stuff down below. Everyone can go check you out on the socials. And thanks for coming on today, man. Appreciate it.
Let me know how those workouts are going. You got a couple coming your way next week you're welcome.